1Q84 sucks. Alright Murakami, the gloves are off. See, I'm gonna tear this one apart. I am gonna absolutely destroy this book. Enjoy. Why doesn't anyone tell him to stop? In preparation for this video, I wrote a list. My list, as you can see here, is called Creepy Horny Shit in 1Q84, and that's pretty much everything that I'm gonna base this video off. I am so angry, I hate this book. Okay, so, I sometimes like Haruki Murakami. I've made videos on him, I've written articles on him, I like some of his books. I need to preface this now because if this video, by chance, ends up blowing up and a bunch of his simps start coming for me, I need to defend myself here by saying that I do like some Haruki Murakami novels. I like Wind Up Bird Chronicle an awful lot. In fact, that's one of my favourite Japanese novels. I really like his running memoir, what I talk about when I talk about running. That book had a huge impact on me, I thought it was great. Wild Sheep Chase, that's a good one, Kafka on the Shore. But the older I get, the less I can deal with misogyny in literature, and Murakami's literature is full of misogyny. So I don't know, if I go back and read those books, will I hate them the way that I hate 1Q84? I don't know, I'm probably not gonna. 1Q84 sucks though. Let's talk about why. Okay, so first off, it's too long. Okay, it's like 1500 pages, and no, I didn't finish it. I couldn't. I realized about a quarter of the way into this book, which is a really decent amount of pages for a 1500 page novel, I realized about a quarter of the way through that I hated it, and then I thought, well, I'll keep reading, and then I'll have more to say, and I'll hate read it. But I couldn't, because I realized that I have a finite amount of time on this planet, I will die one day, and I'm not spending any more time on this fucking book. So I didn't finish it. I DNF'd it, as the kids say. 1Q84 is a dual narrative Murakami novel about a woman who's an assassin, and at the beginning she is on a highway and the taxi driver says, we're going to be here for a while, and she's like, but I gotta go kill a guy. She doesn't say that, but she's thinking it. And so the taxi driver says, tell you what, get out of the car, walk down the lane of traffic that's stopped, and climb down this little kind of fire escape off the overpass. And then he says, oh, but careful, because if you do that, it'll change reality. Basically, you're doing something that is strange and different and a thing that people don't normally do, and so that will lead you to start seeing the world in a different way. Ooh. And so she does, and then when she gets down off this fire escape thing, the first thing she notices is that cops are now carrying different guns. And she's like, why is that? When did that happen? Huh, interesting. And she starts investigating it when she has time, when she's not having terrible sex or killing people. And then the other narrative is a guy who's like 30 and he's a maths teacher, but he also wants to be a writer, and he has a friend who's an editor, and this friend comes to him with this little novella by a strange teenage girl, and he says, I reckon this could win the Akutagawa Prize, but I need you to help me rewrite the entire thing because her story is good but her writing is shit, and can you help me fix it? And then that's his narrative. And you know that eventually these two narratives are going to somehow cross over because they have something to do with reality, shifting and warping. Great, okay, decent enough setup, but it's too long. Why is it that long? In fact, I was reading entire chapters where I thought, okay, nothing happened, could have cut that. Like, does Murakami have an editor? And what are they doing? Why aren't they doing their job? Anyway, so my main problem with this book is that it is full of misogyny. Murakami is known for this. He's known for writing terrible women characters, treating his women characters terribly, writing terrible sex scenes, and people, men, obviously, have tried to defend his terrible sex scenes. And I can see their perspective, because writing bad sex scenes can be done on purpose, to show the awkwardness of sexual interactions between people, to show the less romantic side of sexual encounters, one-night stands, bad sex with your husband or wife, whatever. I totally get that, I totally respect that. I love when writers write awkward and bad sex scenes with a view to accomplishing something. Melissa Broder does this with the Pisces. There are a lot of great writers, but they are always women who manage to write sex in a really bad and awkward and funny way that is very relatable. I don't believe that Murakami is doing any of this. And besides all of that, there is just no excuse for the way that he writes his women, so let's get into the specifics of 1Q84 and all of the creepy, horny, awful stuff in it. So our male protagonist, I can't remember his name now, Aomame is the woman, the guy, he has this thing where sometimes he's hit with this kind of a fit. He suddenly starts drowning in this weird memory of when he was like a year old, and You know, he points out that no one remembers being a year old, but he does. He has this one memory, and the memory is of him in his crib, looking over, and across the room is his mum having her boobs sucked on by a man who is not his dad. This memory comes up a lot. It came up 4 times in the first quarter as I was reading it. He thinks about this a lot. The memory hits him like a tidal wave, and it causes him to just zone out for a second, no matter what he's doing, like a fit. And like, okay, sure, this is gonna go somewhere, but I couldn't... I couldn't contain myself when the 4th time this memory was brought up, he adds an extra detail, which is that his mum's breasts are well-shaped. What is wrong with this man? So this memory is a weird thing, but it's a plot device, okay, I'm gonna go with it. And then the fact that on the 4th time he recounts this memory to us, which we've already read, he also brings up the fact from the character's perspective, his own mother had really nicely shaped boobs in his memory of her from when he was a baby. Oh, Murakami, someone needs to stop you. So that's number 1. That's number 1 of the creepy, horny shit and reasons why 1Q84 sucks. Number 2, breasts and pubic hair always go hand in hand. Whenever Aomame is looking in the mirror and judging herself, which Murakami, all he's doing there is just re-encouraging stereotypes about women and misogyny and the fact that women should do that. I mean, from a male writer's perspective, that's how it seems, that he's reminding women, yes, you should be socially conscious of your appearance, no matter how much you already know that, because that's what society has done to us. I'm just going to quickly remind you of that, and I need you to make sure that you focus on your breasts and the shape of them and the size of them, and while you're there, also pubic hair. He has this thing where he has to pair the two together. Any sex scenes will bring up boobs, their shape, their size, and then pubic hair. It's a 1-2 punch. Here's him describing breasts, and then there's him describing pubic hair as well. He just can't resist. It's like Tarantino and feet. There are these 2 things. Everyone likes boobs. I get that. I love boobs. Boobs are great. But the fact that he pairs them with pubic hair every time, this 1-2 punch is, oh my god, it's so cringe. It's such weird writing. This was my first problem, okay? This number 3, this was actually my first issue with this book, and that is that he has finally written a female protagonist. This is the first female protagonist by Murakami that I've ever read. And I thought, okay, let's see how he handles a woman, given that he's known for doing a terrible job at writing women with any level of respect. Let's see if he can write a female protagonist. He quite often writes sex from a male protagonist's perspective. At some point in most of his novels, his male protagonist will have sex with a woman, and you get to enjoy the cringe of that. The first sex scene that comes up in this book, and there are many, the first one is a lesbian sex scene. Murakami could not bring himself, at least at first, to write a sex scene from the perspective of a woman with a man. He has also never written a gay sex scene. His sex scenes, from the perspective of his protagonist, whatever gender they are, is going towards an object that is female. It is a memory that Aomame has early on of having sex with a friend of hers when she was a teenager and she was experimenting. And in that description, you get a lot of details, a lot of genital details, a lot of descriptions that just come off as, I'm going to say scientific, clinical, very unsexy, very unromantic, very un-everything. And it's just remarkable that he's got this female protagonist and he's like, okay, lesbian scene then. Not a straight sex scene from the woman's perspective. And he never writes a gay sex scene. He's now got a woman protagonist and he has to continue to write the sex scenes that he's always written, except now his protagonist is a woman. I think this video is going to get demonetized, and that's fine, it's worth it. There's a line where she's talking, I can't remember, I just wrote this one down, you can see it here, I just wrote this down. Out of context, I can't remember, Aomame is telling us, the reader, about her interests, her kinks, whatever, and he just says the phrase, she masturbated, a lot. And I love the fact that he included a lot. It's the a lot that gets me. It's so important to us as a reader to know how much she was doing it. Oh my God. People love this book. You know, I looked it up, I did some research, I went on the wiki page which had loads of links to other places. 1Q84 was critically panned. Critics hated this book, mixed to negative reviews. But the fans, the average reader, so many people have told me to read this book over and over again. 1Q84 was their first Murakami, it was their introduction to Murakami, it's where it all started, it's a wonderful book, blah blah blah. Oh, if you haven't read 1Q84, you haven't read Murakami. It's so bad. It's so bad. This one is absolutely wonderful. Okay, when Aomame is worried that she isn't herself anymore because the world around her is changing, she checks her breasts. She's not touching her face and going, oh, am I still the same person? She does this. She does this to herself. Oh, okay, my boobs still feel the same, so I'm definitely still me. Now, to Murakami's credit, she actually checks her fingernails first. She checks her fingernails, and then she checks her breasts. Because he can't resist! Okay, I put this one all over Twitter and Instagram because this was just my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Aomame has a one-night stand with a guy. She needs to be satisfied. Fair enough. But she wakes up and she's sore, but she talks about how she's satisfied because she's had her insides powerfully churned. Like a cement mixer. Like she's not butter. Powerfully churned. Men writing women. Men writing sex. Why does it happen? Why is it allowed? Why are we subject to this? Powerfully churned. Those are all the things that I noticed in my first quarter of 1Q84 before I put it down and threw it across the room. Metaphorically, because I read it on my e-reader. But there was one more thing, which is that from the Wikipedia page, I found this. Literary Review nominated the poorly written sexual encounter between Tengo and Fuka Eri for the 2011 Bad Sex Award. Now this was a spoiler for me because I never got this far, but I don't care. Tengo is the guy, that's right, the guy who's doing the writing, and Fuka Eri is the teenage girl who wrote the story that Tengo is now rewriting. So I now know, spoilers, that there is a terrible, terrible sex scene between these two. I also know that Tengo is about 30 years old and Fuka Eri is 16, I think. Oh, okay. Really, really glad I gave up before I got to that bit. Oh man, 1Q84 sucks. It sucks. It fucking sucks. I hate it. I hate it. I hate this book. I hate all of the terrible writing of women, all the misogyny in this book, all the terrible sex, all of his weird kinks and quirks that are just bad. 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 I hate it. I hate it. I love how much I hate it. And I really, really hope that all of his simps come flooding into the comments to defend him because, oh, that would just justify all of this. All of this. Oh, 1Q84 is terrible. Subscribe for books. What if I'll lose subscribers for this one? Oh well.